You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so how does our intro go?
Welcome to the Grace for the Growth podcast. I'm your host, Courtney Leo. The goal of this podcast is to encourage you on your own growth journey by empowering you to live your life with authenticity, freedom, and confidence. We will get real and raw as we dive into honest conversations about life, faith, business, relationships, dating, healing, and so much more. My goal is that you would walk away from our time together feeling a little less alone, a little less crazy, and a little more brave to be yourself. I hope you will find yourself more compassionate to past you, challenged as present you, and excited for future you. Embrace the story, welcome the messy of it all, sit in the unknown, and most importantly, live authentically. So pull up a chair in my virtual living room and let's dive into today's conversation.
Welcome back, folks. My name is Nick. I'm here with the host, Courtney.
Hey.
This is my takeover of Grace for the Growth. It's going to be fun. It's going to be light. We're just having a good time. We know that we are doing kind of a series of our life leading up to marriage. I think we're actually supposed to be at the wedding day story. Is that correct, honey?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. You don't have to point your mouth down. We
Right.
readjusted. So just talk to me normal. No pressure. I know.
Thanks, audio guy.
Big star energy over here. But so we're actually supposed to be at wedding day, and I know it's anticipated, and we're sorry to disappoint the fans, the tens of you.
Oh my god!
But today's not going to be the wedding day. Honestly, just as we both believe and, for lack of a better word, preach. Sometimes you got to pivot. Pigeon. Sometimes you got to pivot. We weren't feeling it today. We traveled a little bit today. We went to church at my old church where I was working, which is about an hour and a half away. So we got up very early this morning and drove an hour and a half, and then had lunch with some people there, had a great time, and then drove an hour and a half back. And you took a nap because you're like, I'm gonna not.
Yeah,
be able
I
to
literally
make it.
just woke up.
Yeah, so you look great.
Thank you.
But I said, what's on the agenda, honey? What do you want to do? And she goes, well, we're supposed to record a podcast. And I was like, when? And she was like, 2 weeks ago. So here we are, folks. So needless to say, we're pivoting a little bit. We're going to have a little bit of fun in this episode. Still great. Still leaving room for great conversation.
Yeah.
And she said, well, what do you want to talk about? And I don't care. Let's just ask you some questions. So we're going to
try to. I told him he could host.
Yeah. So I'm here hosting Grace for the Growth.
I don't know anything about what's about to happen or what's in his head.
The fun thing is, neither do I.
You know how we talked about trust last episode and like building trust?
Trusting me with your platform.
Here we go.
Which I don't take lightly.
Okay, great. Yeah. I'm so glad.
So, let's dive right into whatever this is going to be. I don't know. I won't lie. I don't have a plan. But that's okay because I have ADHD and we'll just go lots of different directions, right? Clinically proven. She has the paperwork. She found it.
I did find it.
So that's fun. So how are you today, honey?
Well, I am doing okay. Yeah. That nap was fantastic.
Yeah.
I feel like a different human being. I was falling asleep on the car ride home.
Literally, my shoulder was asleep because you were driving. Like at one point, a state trooper got behind me and was like, "Don't swerve!
Oh,
I don't want to get." Like I was legitimately like, "It'll be fine." Then we're almost out of gas. I was like, "Do I stop?" No.
Was I really down for that long in the car?
You were out for like 25 miles.
Jeez. Okay. Well, so, I actually really did sleep then.
I didn't know if you fell asleep or you were just.
That's probably why I was so tired when I got home because I was like mid nap.
So, and I knew I wanted to get gas at Costco, so I didn't want to make you stop because I was going to walk into Costco.
Yeah.
Which I also knew you probably didn't want to do.
I do love Costco, but
it's the best store in the world.
I was tired. Anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking me.
Of course. So we've got tons of things coming up in our lives, and we've been reflecting a lot on lots of things. I was thinking about earlier our first date.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. Mainly the fact that you were late to the first date.
Yeah.
And a couple days ago we were talking, and you said something, and were we texting? And I said, luckily I didn't leave
Yeah.
because you were late.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I just think it's interesting to give thought to the aspect of, if we feel like we have to have this plan in place, we feel like everything's got to look a certain way, or everything's got to be done a certain way. I'm curious to know your feelings as somebody who is willing to pivot and willing to change things up here and there when you can or when you want to, just for funsies. But I feel like some people probably would have been turned away from the fact that you were like 25 minutes late to the first date.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious, had the roles been reversed, I'm curious as to how you would have reacted. And I just genuinely, you told me I could ask questions and put you on the spot.
Yeah,
So
I'm glad you did.
I'm just curious, how do you think it would have been different, if at all? If you hear random meowing, that's probably Larry. We closed the door. He's ticked. But yeah, I'm curious. Do you think it would have been any different had the roles been reversed and maybe I was 25, 30 minutes late? Or any thoughts on that?
I'm trying to think if I had gone on any dates where somebody was super late. I mean, I was stood up a couple times. So, I mean, that's different.
Just
that's
straight
like
up didn't show?
straight up didn't show.
Didn't tell you they weren't showing?
Didn't tell me, didn't show. Like
a few times?
Yeah, a few times. Remember, I went on a lot of dates that one summer. So the pool is very large there for that one summer. It's the only time I didn't date for 10 years of adulthood. Dated so much in 4 months, and then went on like 6 dates before I met you. And that was it.
Okay. So
anywho, okay. If the roles were reversed, I mean, we had such a good date afterwards. You probably would have convinced me to stick around. I mean, like, to keep with it. And also, it's not like I was like leaving you hanging. Like, where is she? Like, I texted you before the date was supposed to start, and said, I'm coming.
I'm curious.
I'm
I
on
don't
the
remember
way.
how much in advance you text me, but it wasn't a crazy amount.
No, it was probably like if the date started at 11, it probably started at like I feel like I remember waking up at like 10:30.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Because I remember I had to get up, I had to get ready, and then drive like 12 minutes. And then I forgot that I had to walk from the parking garage. Yeah. That's what made me late. So, because I remember thinking, so it's actually probably earlier than 10:30. It was probably like 10:15.
It probably was. I remember going to the first restaurant of choice, and they were like, it's going to be 2:00. And I was like, excuse me?
Yeah. So I was texting you the whole time. Because I remember thinking, why, like, I hope he left Cleveland because
I hadn't talked.
You hadn't texted me that morning, which was very weird at that point.
Yeah.
And I know you have your reasonings.
I didn't want.
That's fine.
In my brain,
you're like, I didn't want to run out of things to talk about on the first date, other than good morning, I'm on my way.
Well, I didn't know.
Oh,
I wasn't trying to disturb you.
Yeah, I was sleeping, so I'm glad you didn't disturb me.
I'm just saying.
I was having a nightmare.
You almost slept through the rest of your life.
Wow.
I know.
That'll preach.
Ooh, don't sleep through the rest of your life, church.
Okay, so if the roles were reversed, I mean, at that point where I was at in end of 2023, I probably would have been open and have been like, okay, hey, like, let me just play this out, see it. Like
I text you, hey, I'm so sorry, I'm running late.
Like, let's see.
For me, it would have been like,
let's see if he really like doesn't care, or if this was a frivolous thing, or like what this was. Like, let's see this play out. I probably would have just said, hey, I'm just going to take that as data and see if there's anything behind that at that point in 2023. Now, earlier in 2022, there was probably moments and seasons where I would have just been like, ugh,
nope, done.
Gross.
Yeah. Like,
so
not the ick, but
yeah, it was also, I think it's also different. I don't know, but I think it's also different. Like, me like the fact that we were set up versus just like a match on Hinge. Like I feel like that's different too.
Yeah.
Because one thing that I say a lot and I tell to clients is like, especially in post-pandemic world, like if you, and I know this isn't for everybody. I know there's a lot of people, especially now, who are not on online dating. And there's a lot of people who've never done on online dating. But I would say for the majority in post-pandemic world, like if you were single, you had a dating profile. Like it was just one of those things. Now, granted, I know
I didn't.
I was going to say, I know that's not everybody. And it honestly wasn't me for a really long time.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is like what I was seeing on Hinge was it's like people aren't paying attention to their profiles. People aren't like checking their messages. People aren't looking at things. Like it's a very low stakes. It's not something that people like put a lot of effort into. People just have them. The
Yeah.
people who have them just have them because it's what you do. Not like I'm going to have a dating profile so that I will date intentionally, which is what we would love everybody to do, but that's not what happens.
I got you.
Anyways, long roundabout answer.
No,
all
it's a
over the
great
place.
answer. It's what podcasts are about.
I guess.
And I think it's good to know and to be willing to say, hey, you know, in that particular season, I think I would have been more available to be around had the roles been reversed. But I think it's healthy to admit that that may not have always been the case.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not.
But I do think it's also worth noting that we had a really good conversation leading up to that. I mean, extremely healthy conversation. It wasn't.
If you're not watching on YouTube, the cat is just jungle gymming around Nick.
He's just trying to figure it out.
He's just living his best life on the jungle gym. This is so chaotic.
Hey, it's fine, bud. I'm gonna need you to lay it down or figure it out.
Figure out what you're doing, honey.
So, but I think it's also worth noting that, like, I didn't get up and leave. You know, I mean, you and I said that either in the text or not. Sorry, I got to move his tail so I can see your face. Whenever we were talking about it earlier, I was like, you know, I could have left and this would have never happened.
Yeah, you did text me that this week.
And I think
you're like, I'm so glad I stayed on the date. I'm like,
yeah, I think it's so worth noting that, you know, sometimes it doesn't go to plan. Sometimes it's a little chaotic. Sometimes it gets a little scary because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm 25 minutes late to our first date. He's going to think I'm standing him up or whatever that may be.
Yeah.
And that happens and that's okay. Sometimes you do need to leave, but sometimes you stay.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's worth saying, like, not every time is the exact same.
Yeah.
That was the entire point of me asking that question was, in my opinion, it's worth noting that all cases are different.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one thing I talk to clients a lot about is how can we take the things that we're feeling in our dating experience and take them as data, take them as information, not just about the person. I feel like we talk a lot and there's a lot of advice out there that's like taking all the data about the other person. But like the other thing is what's happening within you, like what's happening within you while you're on this date, while you're leading up to this date, while you're having the conversations, the match, like all this kind of stuff. It's one of the things now where I feel such an added layer to this work about singleness, being like trauma-informed coaching and story work and all this stuff, because I think understanding what's coming up in you and what's happening, it has like this like doing work on my story has made me realize so much of dating as a trauma response. And it goes beyond just what are your attachment styles. It goes deeper into like the way that you make snap judgments about something, or the way that like your body is firing off signals, like trying to stay safe, trying to assess the situation. It's a new situation that you're nervous about. It's a new situation and a new person that you don't know about. And so your story, your trauma, whether it's big T or little t, comes into play in those dating situations. And so for me, like the more I get into this and, you know, the deeper work of my trauma informed stuff happened while we were dating, like, and engaged. So I can't even imagine how much it would have helped me in the dating season. But realizing And like one thing that I like work with clients on so much is like, okay, like what's coming up in you? Like, why are you so quick to be like, oh man, like it's just not great. Like they always let me down. It's always bad. Like it's
Mm,
always blah blah blah. And I'm like, let's take a pause here. Like what in your story is leading you to like think that it's always going to be bad and that people are always out to get you and that you're always set up to fail?
yeah.
Like this goes way deeper than your dating life.
Yeah.
Like it actually goes into your mindset of how you approach all kinds of relationships based on what's in your story. And so that's why I'm like, working on yourself is not just like, oh my gosh, like what do I love to do and all these different things. Like working on yourself in singleness is, hey, like what's coming up for me? And spoiler alert, doing that work helps then for you to not only navigate your dating relationships with more knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
but then also when you enter into relationship and then into marriage, you're like, oh man, like we've said a bunch of times, I could not imagine doing this marriage thing 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like just with the knowledge that we have of our stories and are continuing to work into it and continuing to uncover what's underneath the surface, uncover what has made us who we are.
Yeah.
Like I could not imagine
Yeah.
doing
For
it
sure.
any earlier.
A thought I had while you were expressing that, which that was great.
Thank you.
So great. Absolutely. And I mean, you do it every day. So I do have to give you applause on that. Something that came up for me in my thought process was when you say what's coming up for you,
Mhm.
or, you know what I mean? What you mean by that, to my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is what are the feelings that you're experiencing right now?
Mhm.
So, and I'm curious, which I guess it would be kind of weird to think about. I mean, it all happens within an instant, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'm new into this, so I'm learning it. Well, I'm not new into listening to my feelings, but
Sure.
I'm new into the lingo slash the actual. Let's give thought to what's coming up for us.
Yeah.
Well, and being intentional about that,
Mhm.
and taking a pause.
Yeah.
And I think the pause is kind of where I'm leaning right now in this thought process. It's like sometimes it's nice to just take a breath,
Mhm.
take a pause,
Mhm.
think inwardly and go, what am I feeling?
Mhm.
Why am I feeling that?
Mhm.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is that? What does that look like? Or what does that think through? Am I in the right vein of thought? Is that what you're talking
Yeah.
about?
When I'm saying what's coming up for you, um, it's a open-ended question that I've stole from Carrie Garcia
Okay.
that she asks all the time that I just copy from her, and it's just a really good question. Um, but it's what are the feelings? It's what are the thoughts? It's what are those sensations? Like you can even answer that with like what's happening in your body. Um like I feel like my heart's racing and it's about to beat out of my chest. I feel like I'm about to throw
Yeah.
up. I feel intensity in my hands, like I'm sweating, like that, just whatever is happening, like what's coming up for you can be a mental situation, emotional, physical, all of the above. Where's your brain going to in this moment? Like, and sometimes we don't understand the threat. Threat feels like an intense word, but we don't feel the threat that our body is responding to,
Yeah.
because someone being late for a date, for
Mm-hmm.
example,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't seem like a threat,
Mm.
right? That doesn't seem like a threat. But if in your story you have a narrative, like maybe when you were a kid, you're constantly being let down, or like expectations are being missed, or people are saying one thing and doing another,
Mm-hmm.
or you are always thinking that people are out to get you or want the worst for you, or like there's something that has happened probably multiple times that has created a narrative in your body, in your mind, your brain, that says alert, 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 danger, danger, danger.
Or it could be just with this specific situation, you were late. I could very go. part of my story is it's my fault. This is
Yeah.
all my fault.
Yeah.
And then I begin to take that on when
Right.
exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's from my story, and then I put it on those feelings are coming up.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness, this is all my fault.
Yeah. Yeah. And so engaging your story allows you to understand, hey, these are the places where there's been harm and there's been hurt in my past. And this harm created a pattern of protection.
Mm.
So my brain and my body, your body's designed to protect you from harm. Your brain is designed to protect you from harm. And so as you are a child, developing your neural pathways, developing your sense of the world, you create meaning and create protection out of the things that are like when things are stolen from you, when things are gone, right? Like
Yeah.
that is what trauma like does to us. We all have it in some way, even if we have a great childhood, we all
Yeah.
have trauma.
Yeah.
And so it makes us who we are. And so by engaging your story, by asking what's coming up for you, you're allowing yourself to say like, oh yeah, like I'm fine. Like you're allowing yourself to go beyond the, oh yeah, I'm fine. Or the like, it's just I don't really like when he's late. Tell me more.
Yeah.
Like tell me more. Like tell me about that. Like tell me what are some emotions around
Yeah.
him being late on the date? Like, you know? And so you give yourself the opportunity, and usually, and what I do is story engagement, not story work. I need to have a lot more training to do story work.
Yeah.
But I've received story work,
Yeah.
and if anybody wants to do story work, I have a great recommendation. But yeah, so even with story engagement, I can at least engage. Okay, and so you're feeling this. Okay, do you have a sense, like, when did you first feel that in your life? Do you have a sense of why those two things are connected to each other, right? I can engage your story a little bit
Yeah.
in that way. So
I'm curious, which this is totally not at all where I thought this podcast was going, but you're you're giving us a lot to think about, and I'm grateful for it. I have several thoughts. One, so when you're talking about you said story work and then you said story engagement.
mm-hmm.
Do you ever do story engagement on the opposite end? And what I mean by that is, so you talk about trauma.
Mm-hmm.
My brain kind of goes to the other end of like, what makes you happy? Why does that make you happy or elated? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, is there a pathway to figuring things out there? Because again, there's unhealthy ways of being happy, which comes from trauma and comes from your past and comes from all of these things. Do you ever deal with anything of that nature?
Yeah. I think a lot of times I think where you're getting to, a lot of times when we've experienced harm or grief or chaos in our home or a lack of control or something like that, there's a lot of ways to protect, right? Overcompensating, performance. I'm just going to list off. There's so many, right? Overcompensating, performance, hiding, minimizing. Like there's so many ways that we protect ourselves, but also a way to navigate the chaos that you may have lived in, or the lack of chaos, or the lack of emotional engagement, whatever it is. There's so many. I don't want to put anyone in a box, but is
Infinite
through soothing.
possibilities.
Yeah, is soothing, right? And so a lot of times the ways that you found peace, the ways you may have found peace in your story, may be soothing, and maybe unhealthy soothing patterns. And so it's one of those things where sometimes, whether it's substances or TV or food or something like that, like, or I don't know,
The
name
Lion
it.
King for me.
Sure, exactly. Yeah. Like there are things that bring that safety net, and it brings peace and it brings goodness because it was this place of peace in a harmful situation. So I think that, I don't know if that exactly answers your question, but where does the happy emotions play while you're talking about trauma is I think what you're asking me.
Yeah, for sure.
My brain immediately goes to, oh, well, where did you create and seek out and find peace and happiness with the pain that you were experiencing? Right. So I think that's probably where I would see it the most.
Yeah.
Where I would hear it the most. Again, I'm only like a year into this.
Yeah.
I'm 2 years into my own work, but I'm only a year into training of this.
Yeah.
And I've got a long way to go. So
that's okay.
Don't take it fully from me, but that's what I've heard, and that's
this
what I
is
know.
your viewpoint.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for it.
Yeah. If I'm wrong, I'm willing to be corrected. Please
absolutely. And that's the best part about being willing to continue to learn.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely in student mode.
I've done audio work for 15 years.
Yeah.
I do not claim to know everything. I do not act like I know everything. If you ever have anyone in a field that says they know everything, they're incorrect.
Correct.
So, I mean, yes, you are a trauma-informed worker infant, but
Infant.
hey, you're learning how to walk.
Yes.
So, and I'm just putting you on the spot.
Yes.
And you're doing wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So, wow, that was a great little spiel there.
Thank you. You're so encouraging as an interviewer. Like after every interview, after every question, you're like, that was a great answer.
That was a great answer. Good answer. Good answer. It's on the board. Good answer.
Family
feud going. Well, I try to be supportive,
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You're a good supportive husband.
I just realized the clock on our soundboard is way off.
It is.
Sorry, that's the ADHD playing into the podcast world here, folks.
Yeah.
So let's go a little further. I haven't always been the most confident of people. Mary, no, stay down. I haven't always been the most confident of people, and I know we talked about it some. And maybe I know for some people this probably isn't a big deal, but for us, holding hands for the first time felt like a big deal to me. Did it feel like a big deal to you?
Yeah, because you wouldn't hold my hand.
Yeah. So I say that to say it's okay if it doesn't feel like a big deal to everyone, but to me.
What is this cat doing? I'm so sorry. You can't even see him in the
Stop it. Bad Larry.
Hey, we said welcome to our virtual living room.
Absolutely.
It's just everything.
I think he was trying to use that as a scratching post. I need to cut his nails.
Absolutely not.
Oh gosh, he's gonna jump up there and knock that light over. It's gonna go down, folks.
Okay, you say holding hands.
Thoughts. Yes. So I'm curious. Was it weird for you? Like you held my hand first, and I remember. Did you know I wasn't gonna go?
When did I hold your hand?
I can tell you the exact moment.
Hang on, let me think about it. It wasn't on our second date.
It was on our third date.
It was on our third date, which was your birthday celebration, right? Oh, it was when we were walking to breakfast.
Yeah.
Yes, walking to breakfast.
Yeah, we were in the parking garage.
Yes. Yeah, I grabbed that. Really.
Yeah. So
I was so frustrated.
Well, yeah.
I made the first move, folks.
You did. I mean, I texted you first, so that counts,
we had talked about holding hands a lot. Okay, wait. Get to your question, and then we'll give whatever context.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm curious if, obviously, you knew that it was a thing for me.
PDA.
Like maybe I was PDA, but also just the fact I was hesitant, didn't know. I don't know. And it's just holding hands. It is not that big a deal, folks.
Yeah.
Let's just throw it out there.
Yeah.
For us, for some people, physical contact may be a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is a big deal to you, please let the person you know
that.
Yes. It was not a big deal for us that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
But in my brain, I wasn't trying to do something to mess anything up or make you feel uncomfortable. So I'm curious if as simple of a first move as holding someone's hand is, it feels like it's a big deal to like make you do it. I don't know.
Well, we had talked about it.
Yeah.
So I think that I remember our second date. I remember like making sure my hand was out of my pocket and my jacket a lot, like as we were walking. It's just like, and I don't know if anybody's ever experienced this, but like there is never a more what do I do with my hands normally time as when you're like, wait, like want to be available to have your hand held, but it's not being held. Like you're like, what do I normally do with my hands? Like if you're sitting down, you're like, where are my hands normally? Like, are they here? Like where are my hands normally when I'm walking? How do I normally walk with hands?
Yeah.
And anyways, so that was the second date. It was just like my hands were very available and very around and out of coat pockets. And it was December, so it was freezing and they were not being held. So, anyways, between our second and third date was like 2.5 weeks, almost 3 weeks. No, 2.5 weeks. And it was a lot of talking.
Yeah.
A lot of texting. That's when we started talking on the phone. That's when we started FaceTiming. So we had a lot of conversations. I mean, that was like beginning of dating, the beginning of dating honeymoon phase where you stay up too late and you forget how to sleep. So it was that, which anytime I would tell people, like tell friends, I'm like, yeah, I'm really tired. We just, I was like, I'm just not really sleeping that much. Like we're just staying up too late. And they're like, oh yes.
I remember that
yes.
time.
Oh yes. And now I'm the annoying person who does that to people when they're like, yeah, I'm just not really sleeping a lot. Like I'm like, oh yes, don't worry. Don't worry, you'll get through it. You'll go back to it. Now we go to bed at 9:00.
Yes.
So
if we're lucky. I just want to be in bed by 8:30.
So we had talked about it. I do remember having at least a texting conversation, maybe a phone call conversation about physical contact.
Yeah.
When there was kind of green light about holding hands, holding my hand, you holding my hand, whatever. We also talked about kissing at that point. Like we didn't go like deep into the full boundaries conversation, but I did think we talked about holding hands and kissing at that point and how we felt about it. And then
I don't remember the kissing part.
You don't remember talking about kissing?
Not once.
I remember it because I wanted you to kiss me.
Have we even kissed yet?
No, I wanted you to kiss me on the second date and you didn't. So that's why we talked about it, because I wanted to make sure you knew that I was okay if you kissed me. Because like the end of our second date was so weird because we had this really deep, and we go back and listen to it, this really deep second date, like just emotional. We both cried. We both like, you basically told me
where I told you we were getting married.
Basically, not
I didn't
there.
Say it.
You didn't go there because you're not crazy, but it was there. It was implied
for sure.
It was between the lines that you were like, I want to do this.
Well,
I want to do this, girl.
I made it very plain that I was in it if you were in it.
Yeah, you were going to stop talking to all those girls. Yikes.
There weren't a lot of girls.
They happened to coincidentally stop talking to you at the same time.
They legit did.
Okay.
That's how it happened.
I know. I learned that on a podcast that we did.
Didn't realize. Man, I forget a lot of things.
Okay, so
I remember praying, like, Lord, I don't know how I'm going to end these conversations. And then they just stopped.
I know.
Hey, thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus. So I remember because you didn't kiss me, because you didn't hold my hand. I don't know who brought up. I don't know who brought up the conversation.
Probably me.
Probably you. But anyways,
I've always done that.
I was making sure that you knew green light.
Yeah.
For the hand holding and kissing.
Well, it felt like a yellow
our third
light.
Date. Okay.
It's just how I interpret it. I'm not saying it wasn't a green light. I'm just saying maybe I was.
So, anyways, he gets to my house in the morning. Like he wakes up early and drives, and we're gonna go to a brunch because Nick loves brunch.
It's my favorite food.
And so we had it at our rehearsal dinner. And
first day, third day.
Yeah, we have a lot of brunch.
I eat eggs every day.
So we we're walking, like he like picks me up from my house and then drives the whole drive there, no hand holding.
No hand holding.
We get out of the car, no hand holding.
Yeah.
Finally, we're like 30 steps into walking from our car, Nick's car, to the parking garage steps.
I was about to say, it was literally, we didn't make that.
Give me.
So
and I took it.
You're showing a lot of passion here. A lot of passion for the holding of the hands. I'm curious, is it weird to you to have like to feel like it was on you? I didn't.
Interesting.
I inadvertently put that on you. It wasn't intentional.
Huh.
But your boy was nervous.
Yeah. Well, I knew you were nervous.
I was always nervous.
It took you a long time to not
I was
be
nervous until May 11th.
which is the day after we got engaged. Oh gosh.
But
do I feel bad? That's a good question.
Not
I've never thought about that.
But like, does it feel
like,
weird?
oh gosh, I had to make the first move. No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I've never felt that way ever. I've never felt that way.
Okay.
I never felt that, like, because I feel like we had talked about it.
Yeah.
And we, like, I knew where you were at. I also knew you were really nervous in person. And I also knew, like,
I'm
3 days.
Smooth as mess over a text message. Though.
Yeah, you're smooth as mess over text message and you're pretty good over the phone.
Yeah.
But then, 3 dates in, like, you show up to my house and you're just, like, pale white. And I'm like, we've talked every day for the last 6 weeks. And you, like, knock on the door and you're just like, I'm like, okay, let me help this guy out. Like, and my story is when things are a little stressful, like when there's nerves to be had, I overcompensate and I take over.
Yeah.
So that's very storied for me.
It's not a bad trait.
Oh no, it's not bad. I know where it comes from now, but yeah. So I was like, oh man, this guy's so nervous. Let me just take over till he like comes back to himself into full color. And I think the hand holding thing, I don't really remember, but I feel like the hand holding thing was just like, we talked about this. We said we're going to do this. He hasn't done it yet. So let's just do it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do it. So
it wasn't weird you didn't feel like there was necessarily pressure on you, but it wasn't weird for you to take the pressure off of me.
No. I never resented you for it. Clearly, I forgot until this moment. I never forget things. Clearly, I forgot. It wasn't that big of a deal, apparently. But then I just sat back pretty much after. I mean, those are pretty much the only things that I like really initiated. Larry's just getting into stuff. He's going to knock things down. Hey, Larry.
The door's closed.
Larry, hey. Stop, buddy. Okay, thanks. So yeah, good question. I never thought about that before. But I didn't resent you.
Good. The only reason not the only reason, one of the reasons I ask is simply because, again, there's no traditional way to look at it. There's no traditional thing that needs to happen.
Mm-mm.
And I say that for anybody that may be watching or is going to watch. And the same can be said, I feel like, even spiritually. Like, we read scripture and we go, well, it happened this way for Paul. So,
yeah,
Lord, if you want me to do this, I need you to blind me for a few days. and that way I know it's you. Or like, you have people that they just put these weird, like, unrealistic expectations or conditions on their life and on their relationships and on their spiritual guidance and all of that. And it's like, Lord, if this is you, this will happen. And sometimes that does happen, but sometimes it's just an out of the ordinary thing.
Yeah.
And you kind of just have to move forward.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay.
I think it goes back to what I was talking earlier about data. Like, I talk to so many people where it's like, a guy makes one wrong move or like does something off or doesn't take initiation here, and we just write him off. Now, granted, some wrong moves are, needed to be some wrong moves, so we'll allow that to happen. But like, it's just one wrong thing or like one wrong move here, and we just write him off, and if it's an obviously no, like if it's like a, hey, I'm uncomfortable, this is unsafe, this is uncool, okay,
Yeah.
fine, great, give you permission to that. But if it's like a like your character that has shown through time, in time of dating you, in time of being with you, like all this stuff, and maybe this is why I forgot. Your character is not somebody who I have to like beg to show affection to me or beg to hold my hand.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
if I would have been like, and just cross Nick off the list because he never takes initiation and he didn't grab my hand, I had to grab his hand. Like, I would have missed out. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Because your character and your patterns
Yeah.
and the data that I collected over time, the fact that you didn't grab my hand first, that's not really in alignment with the generalization of your character that I have stayed open and learned about you. And I feel that way. I feel that a lot of people are like that in dating, but also even before dating. Well, they don't have this. Well, they don't have that. Well, they don't have this. Like, and hear me out. I'm all about having high standards. I would say
Absolutely.
when I started dating you, my standards were higher than I was going to say than they ever have before. But I mean, I did grow up in purity culture. So that was probably the highest. So this is probably the second highest that my standards had ever been.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying don't have high standards, but I'm saying, can we take the approach of having, that didn't make me feel good. I wonder if this is going to be an ongoing pattern.
Yeah.
That's interesting data. They were late. Or, that's interesting. You didn't take initiation and hold my hand. That's interesting. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I wonder, right? And like collecting data on that and not making so abrupt conclusions
Yeah.
and being like, you know, I don't know. I just like talk to people who are like, yeah, and this person in my small group or this person here, or like, or even I was like this, like, I want to set you up with so and so, not you, but like, I want to set you up with so and so. And like previously, I'd be like, no, like, because you're just taking a rash judgment on somebody
Yeah.
or what you've heard about somebody, and you're not actually being open to the fact of like, maybe my perception of them is a little bit off, or maybe I don't have enough data, or maybe the data that I have actually is leading towards true conclusions, but let me actually make sure that that data is
Yeah.
like locked in. Like, yeah. Like if I would have been like, oh, he didn't take my hand here, he didn't do this here, this guy might not take initiation. Like, I would have learned that. I
It's
would have.
initiative, by the way.
Okay, initiative. Thank you. I do
Sorry.
this all the time. I do the wrong word. I say the wrong word.
I felt bad.
Thanks. I say the wrong word perpetually.
It's okay. It's fine. At least you're sticking to it. But
Oh gosh.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. No, I appreciate you. That's very kind of
Initiative.
you. Initiative. Initiation is a word.
It is a word,
but it's the wrong word.
It's just not the word needed for what we were talking about.
Anywho, so
I'm still going through my initiation.
Gosh. Yeah. So anyways, I forget what the end of that thought was. It was a really good thought.
I'm
but
so sorry.
No, it's okay. I appreciate it.
Gosh, ADHD strikes again. I locked in on that word and I couldn't get off of it.
It happens all the time. My mom calls me out on it all the time. My sister too. They're like, almost. Like sometimes I'll say a word and they'll be like, close.
Yeah. Okay, so I can bring us kind of back. So it also goes to nope, lost it right there. Sorry, I gotta re-download.
Character shines through time. Yeah, so I would just say like where's the data?
And do you have I know what I was gonna say.
Okay, cool.
Here's
do you have enough data?
Yes, there's more data.
He interrupts me.
Absolutely all the time. But to add on to what you're saying about data being gathered, you said that I showed up to your door and I'm like pale, man. Oh my gosh, this guy's nervous. But I shine when I'm texting. I shine when I'm on the phone. Like, wow, he's actually pretty good doing it.
Yeah.
So you have data that like
sketchy.
Yeah, like it
not consistent.
Are things adding up or are they not adding up? Or what do I just have to peel back a layer of the onion or the cake or whatever we want to call it, Shrek? But do we peel back the layer just a little bit and give him a chance or whatever? And then hopefully which obviously I passed the test. But hopefully you shine through a little bit and see, oh, he's just nervous.
Yeah.
But you gave a chance to still receive a little bit of data.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And another thought that occurred to me that I feel like is important is you have a wonderful community of people that you shared this data with.
Yes.
So it wasn't just you trying to interpret it. It wasn't just you saying, oh my gosh, this is what I have. This is what I am getting. Or because I feel like you told me later, you're like, well, I was talking to my friend Jen or my sister AJ, and I was like, am I feeling this correct? Or is this weird? Or blah, blah, blah. And they're like, maybe it's not exactly how you're thinking. Or it's like, oh, maybe no. It sounds right.
Yeah. I think what I needed a lot of support for was I felt crazy that I didn't feel crazy. And a lot of people talk about this, especially after a pretty painful and traumatic relationship, or a couple of them. But it's very, when you're used to feeling crazy, when you're used to feeling chaotic. And my last relationship I was in, it was not including like, dates and stuff like that, but like the last relationship I was in, like I felt crazy. Yeah. I did not feel grounded. I did not feel ease the whole time.
Okay.
The whole time. There was never a sense of like ease, rest. This is fun. I always felt I was performing. I always felt I was proving. I always felt like I was being investigated. And was I going to pass the judge's test? Was I going to measure up? And so one thing that people had told me, this happens when you're with somebody healthy. Not even when you're with the one, but like when you're with somebody healthy and it's a healthy relationship, that there is an ease. And it's kind of like well, all right, we'll see where it goes. Like, and there was so much like that was just like grounded and like it just sat back and just, and we're just taking it one day at a time. And here we are. And this is what I want to do. And this is what I don't want to do. And I'm going to grab his hand here and I want to text him here. Like, and here I am. And it's just grounded because it's regulated. Because you're like in a healthy space.
Yeah.
And you get to be yourself and you're not performing and you're not being investigated and all these different things. And so I remember one thing I needed a lot of reassurance of from my people was, it's okay. Because it wasn't like this crazy and the spotlight and the heavens opened up and this and that. And, somebody told me once that it's not butterflies. It's your gut telling you to run. It's like, and I know that's not always the case. Like, so that's a generalization, but it's one of those things where sometimes our nervous system is freaking out and it's not healthy. And with you, I said from date 2, what do you know?
You felt, I'm trying to remember the exact verbiage you used.
Disarmed.
Yeah. I was going to say, I was trying to think of the word, but yeah.
Disarmed. I felt disarmed. I could just take my armor off and I could just be.
Yeah.
And so that created some regulation. Yep. There, I did it again. Did you hear me? Regularization.
Some realization of regulation.
Guys, if this is a sidebar, you know how in Wicked they just make up words?
Yeah.
Or like and salutations and all these different things.
Regularization.
Like I belong in Oz. I just make up words like gratitude. I would like to express my gratitude. Yeah. I'm like me. Anyways, so
don't worry, we'll do an episode on Wicked one day.
Just to add words.
Yeah.
But yeah, groundedness, realization that there was some groundedness and I needed that.
Yeah. But you had a good community, a good group of people that not, I don't know how better to say it than good group of people, because like people have community. It's not always good community.
Sure. Or honest.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you knew your community was honest.
Mm-hmm.
You knew that they would hear you, but then they would also go, it's okay that you feel this way. Like, this is okay.
Yeah. I also knew I wanted to be honest with them and I wanted to talk to them. Which in my last relationship where everything was bad, one of the signs that I now know now is I didn't tell anybody what was really going on. I wasn't honest with anybody about what was really happening behind the scenes and what the conversations were and what was being said to me. I didn't tell anybody. So when I actually got out of that relationship finally and started telling stories of what was happening and what I was feeling and how like I was being talked to, my people were like, excuse me?
Yeah.
Excuse me? Like, we could tell on your face that you weren't yourself, and we can tell in how you were carrying yourself you weren't yourself, but you didn't tell us any of these stories. Like, so thankfully I had friends and wonderful enough to be able to go, you doing okay? But like, I was not engaging them in the process. I was hiding. And yeah, so that became a point of data to me in a healthy relationship. Do I feel like I can just have conversation about this? Like, just talk about this. Like, and not be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to tell you about something. Oh my gosh. Because again, super, super heightened. Like, super excited. And I could still be super excited. And I was super excited. But I also just got to be myself. And just regulated. And I'm just here. This cat is going to destroy this room before this episode is over.
He's like playing with the curtains now.
Oh, gosh. We need a 360 view of this cat so y'all can see what we're seeing.
My goodness.
Okay, anyways.
Yeah.
This is why we tried to kick him out, and then he was meowing.
Yeah. Now he's just being craziness.
We just need to lock him in the back door next time. Okay, anyhow. We're learning. We're learning how to do this with a bunch of pets.
Yeah. Well, no, thanks for that. I mean, it's illuminating. It's healthy conversation. I mean, yeah, I didn't have a subject of the episode, but I feel like the episode is going to the place. I like hearing your opinion as well as the things that you've been working on, the things that you are continuing to work on. I know you do meetings ever so often throughout the month. Things that I'm working on as I've began the journey as well, stepping in there with you. Yeah, I mean, I think it's wonderful to hear, and thank you for your perspective. Yeah, I don't know. Any closing thoughts on our random episode of just, we didn't have a plan, but I got to hear your heart of, for anybody that's listened, they can tell that this is your passion. And I think your willingness to be educated on it shines. And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
But for us to go on a whim and me to just start firing random little open-ended questions.
No idea where we were going. You could have asked me what my favorite color was. Like, exactly. I had no idea where we were going today.
You've still never given me a straight answer on that question either.
Oh, yeah. Because it depends on what you're asking me for.
Yeah. In my notes on my phone that I took when we were first starting out.
It's cute.
Yeah.
I've
got a whole
initiative
note for you. Initiations. On my note, I put doesn't know but is drawn to blue.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah. So, but no, I mean it's evident to see that you're passionate, and I think it's so wonderful to have a little bit of light shed on that. I'm grateful for your perspective. I mean, we're able to sit here and talk about. I know we talk about our relationship all the time. The people in the world that are listening or watching are probably like, my God, can they stop talking about their relationship? I don't know. Maybe they're not. Maybe they love it. I don't know. I don't read the comments. You do. But I think it's, I just want to say thanks for sharing, being open with it. But thanks for working on it. It's important and it's great. And I know it's weird to be praised on your own podcast, but I'm praising you on your podcast. You are putting work in. You are doing good work. And I think that needs to be highlighted.
Thank you.
And I hope you continue to do it.
Thanks.
Because it's edifying to me, and it's helped our relationship.
For sure.
And you pushing me, not unhealthy, not in a bad way, but just saying, hey, if you would be willing or open to this, I will support you in it.
Yeah.
This is where I'm passionate. This is where I started. Would you be open to this? And me being willing to say, yeah, I'll give it a shot. I mean, it has truly, because I've seen the effects it's had on you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one, to anyone listening, to anyone watching, I encourage you, work on yourself.
Yeah.
Work on your story.
Mm-hmm.
And for the church people, you got to talk about your testimony. You have to figure out what is happening in your body. I'm just going to be honest right now. It's not always the devil. It's not always a demon. It is not always something extraterrestrial, and everybody thinks alien, but I'm talking about outside of your, like,
sometimes it's your nervous system.
Sometimes it's you
that God created.
Absolutely. And sometimes it is the fact that when you were a young child, when your dad got mad, instead of yelling at you, they turned away and walked away, and you knew they were upset, and they didn't process it in a way to help you, or they didn't relay to you, hey, daddy's upset, I'm just going to take a breath. But instead, that translates to you as, when I get upset, I run away.
Or when I have emotions, no one has space to listen to them.
Yeah.
So why would I share my emotions?
Yeah.
So many ways you can go, because all of us are different.
Yeah.
Because our brain makes pathways.
Absolutely.
That's why everyone's story is different, even if you grew up in the same household as the other people. It's your siblings.
But it's also why, no matter if you had a great childhood, or if you had a terrible childhood, or if you had an okay childhood, everyone's still got a story.
Everyone's got a story.
Everybody has these I can't say
intrinsic.
Yeah, intrinsic.
I got a word right.
Has these intrinsic things that are built into them via the aqueducts of our parents giving to us, and our siblings giving to us, and the relationships we're in. So I want to encourage people. I want to shed light on this. I mean, as a male, I am working on myself emotionally. I'm working on myself physically, spiritually. I mean, it doesn't stop.
Yeah.
And in order for you and I to have a healthy relationship, I have to continue doing that. And it's not just simply for the fact of I need to be the head of the household and I've got to lead and got to do and got to provide. No, it is not that. It's sometimes I need to figure out why, when adversity comes at us, I feel like there it goes. And
oh gosh, the light just fell. When adversity comes.
When adversity comes,
like the light's falling down.
It truly brings up something in me, and I don't know what that is or what that looks like.
Yeah.
But I'm learning it, and it's because I'm working on myself, and it's because you've worked on yourself and are working on yourself, and I don't know. That's such a big thing that we need to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I, as a male, want to encourage anyone listening or wanting to do that. Please reach out to us. We would love to point you in the right direction, not because we're about to get a kickback, but because we care about you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think working on your story is understanding that the way that God made us is body, soul, and spirit. It's understanding that like he could have made us just little spirits.
Yeah.
But he gave us this human body to protect us, to house so many things. He gave us emotions. Like, it's all intertwined in that.
Yeah.
And when we talk about working on your story, we're talking about working on like in getting really curious about the things that make you you, not to shame you, but just to understand it. And it's amazing when we actually start naming the places of harm, the places of harm that have gone unnamed, that the enemy has been able to sneak in for years, for decades, has been able to get away. So get away with the patterns. He partners with the wounded parts of the other people in our lives, and he loves to see a little moment and loves to exploit a little moment here. And so what we get to do is we actually get to sit and we get to say, no, hey, actually, here's where harm was. Here, let's actually grieve this together, so that then we can step into a place of repentance. Then we can step into seeing the gratitude and the goodness of God in those moments, and actually then moves us into forgiveness to be able to set us into what we were created and designed to do. And so I feel like it's really easy for us to just like slap on a Bible verse and just be like, yeah, I am who I am. And it's like, I am who I am because of my story. And also the story that has made me who I am deserves care and deserves to be seen and deserves to have love and understanding. And it has caused so much incredible awareness in my own life, and has only amplified that in marriage, has only created a language for us to share through, to talk through things. Like, I think our conversations have just, I'm so proud of us. Like we have hard moments, but I feel like our conversations are deeper than ever before. And yeah, I feel like this is a whole conversation in itself, a whole episode in itself about trauma informed work and story engagement. But all this to say, because we kind of didn't really like set the context of it, we just kind of like danced in it and rolled into it. So if you have questions, please DM me and I'd be happy to answer your questions, or we'll do another podcast episode about it. So if anything, you're like, excuse me, I did not follow any of that. Like, okay, we understand. This was not where we were going.
Not at all.
We did not have a context statement. But what I will say is that what I love, this is the point that I want to circle back to, is that like 3 years ago, maybe even 4 years ago, no, 3 years ago, I got the name for this podcast, Grace for the Growth. I knew that I needed to have a long form place for me to just talk and for me to just process. I knew that I needed to get stuff out there and get content out there for myself, for my own, gotta get it out. Like, just, and I don't mean that in like a, but I didn't care if 2 people listened to it. Like, I did not care. It just needed to be out there. And I felt that this title, Grace for the Growth, encompassed the fact, a couple things. One, that life is messy. Embrace the messy is like, that's what I need merch for. I say it to my clients all the time, like, embrace the messy. Like, there is so much like peace that comes in just embracing it messy, not trying to just like tidy it up and just like make it all perfect, but just be like, yeah, this is just honest. Like, I'm on a growth journey, and can we have grace for that? Can you, as an audience, have grace for me as I'm sharing this messiness? Can we as people have grace for the messiness in our story and embrace the messy? Are we okay sitting in the gray, sitting in the unknown, saying, I don't have this all figured out, saying, I might actually get this wrong? And also, can we have grace for the person that we once were, and not shame the person we once were, but actually say, okay, I'm not, I was holding a lot. I was navigating a lot, and let's not shame her, but let's actually give her some love and compassion and grace, and say she's on a growth journey. And so I'm going to actually create space. Like even I've only really been doing online stuff for like 3 or 4 years now, but even in that, I'm like, literally, I listen to some stuff and I'm like, oh honey, oh sweet honey, you didn't even know. But then I'm like, but I need to have grace for that growth process. And even even now, when things are hard, when things are tough, when I want to be hard on myself, when I want to lead into shame,
One thing I tell my clients all the time when shame starts to come up is how can we take shame and how can we put it through the lens of curiosity? When you want to lean into shame, when you want to get down on yourself, when you want to get hard on yourself, how can we actually turn into and say, hey, rather than like slapping myself on the top of the hand and being like, you shouldn't be feeling this, you shouldn't be doing this, why are you handling this? How can we approach it with curiosity and say, hey, I'm actually really curious why this is still coming up. I'm really curious about why I'm responding and behaving in this way. I'm really curious why I want to run in this way. And it creates this opportunity for you to say, God, will you actually bring in some insight? Can I actually engage with professionals who know how to engage this with me? Can I engage in good conversation and actually be open to what's coming up here? Rather than leaning into the shame complex, which I feel like so many Christians do, like shame, 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 you're bad, repent, forgive, you're bad, repent, forgive. Like, and just actually saying, hey, all about repentance, all about forgiveness. I'm all here for that. But can we actually go, let's get curious about this and let's actually have so much compassion and grace for our own stories. And what the cool thing is as we have grace for our own stories, we actually start to gain grace and compassion for everyone else's stories around us. What a world would that be if we started to have more grace, more compassion, more love, more empathy for the people in our lives?
Wow.
That's my TED Talk.
I love it. Honestly, I don't think there's any more that needs to be said. That was a great ending.
Thank you.
And so for anyone that's listening, we appreciate you jumping in with us. It's been chaotic. It's been fun. There hasn't been a certain aspect to do. We just sat down to have a conversation. And thank you, honey, for having me. As always, thanks for letting me take over for a minute.
It was great. You did a great job.
Well, thank you. But we hope that you'll join us next time. And until then, it's been Grace for the Growth.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Grace for the Growth podcast with Courtney and Leo. I hope that this conversation encouraged you and inspired you on your own growth journey and as you pursue a life full of authenticity and freedom. I want to encourage you to interact with us on social media at Grace for the Growth and at Courtney Y. Leo. Also, if you've got any ideas, way that these episodes have impacted you or encouraged you, I want to invite you to either DM us or email us at hello@graceforthegrowth.com. Until next time, I challenge you to embrace your story, welcome the messy, sit in the unknown, and live authentically. Bye-bye now.